Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to Facts and Two Cents. This is Petal. Hope you guys are having a great day. Hope you've had a great week so far. Welcome to Facts and Two Cents. Have not done a live in a while, so it's actually great to be back. I actually recorded this episode last night, but for some reason the volume was so low, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a live. And so I'm thankful that I had the opportunity or the time today, this morning, to be able to do it. So, and hang out for a minute talking about our faves who are actually not, they have been quiet. So, our faves are quiet under their tree in Montecito. We love to have them there, doing whatever it is they're doing, not being a part of drama. And as we know, lots of drama going on, as you can see on the screen with Endgame and all the, obviously, with any of this stuff, Shutter Island just sort of falls off a cliff. I mean, rolling over themselves, just going overboard with just about everything as usual. They just cannot seem to help themselves. And as we know, I recently learned Scobie is in the US, in California, hopefully hanging out by the beach and just, thanking the crazies on Shutter Island for giving him free press and publicizing his book even more. So, but before I even start with all of that, I'm just going to say hi to all my friends in the chat. Hello, my friends. How are you all doing? I'm just going to scroll all the way up. Lydia, awesome moderator. Hello, Lydia. And Gwen and Robert from Rome. Hello, Robert. How are you doing? It's like 1930 in Rome. Can't wait. I guess that was a while ago. So happy that you're here, Robert. Awesome moderator. Karen M is here. Perlina is here. Hello, Karen M and Perlina. And who else is there? Nolo Thandu hanging out with us from South Africa. Hello, Nolo Thandu. And Raffaella from, he's like, ciao, from Italy. Hello, Raffaella. We have two Italians here. Well, one from the US but lives in Italy, and one from Italy. Hello. Church Nelly, our awesome moderator from South Carolina. So happy to have you here, Church Nelly. Hope you are feeling better and better and better. We've all been praying for you. Who else is here? I'm just like scrolling down. Annie is here. Hello, Annie. And Dolores is here. And Lola Love is here. Hello, Lola Love. Leslie is here. Hello, Leslie. How are you? Mrs. S is here. Hello, Leslie. And well, I think I said Annie before. Annie. That's okay. We say hello again. And all our other friends will say hello as we're going along. But I am so happy you guys are here, and we will chat for a bit and yeah, and see what's going on in the world. And as you can see on the screen, Endgame is what's going on in the world right now. And I had made this firm commitment that I was not going to be reading this book, that anything, because my thing about it is like, look, I've already heard Harry and Meghan's story. I've heard it from, the Harry and Meghan docuseries, the Oprah Winfrey interview. Spare. I do not want to hear Harry and Meghan's story from someone else. Even though I love Scobie, I respect him, I respect his journalism, I didn't want to hear Harry and Meghan's story from other people. And so, but the last couple of weeks, or at least the last week, I've sort of been having a change of mind and a change of heart because come to find out some of squaddies were able, like Omid had sent advanced copy to some squaddies, and so they were reading it and just sort of sharing, no details in the terms of any, nothing given away about the book, but they were sort of like generally what the book is about. And so my understanding is that, at least until yesterday, my understanding was it's not a book about Harry and Meghan. Yes, it's about the royal family, so obviously they are part of the royal family, so a small part is obviously relates to them, but the book is not about them, and it's about really the state of the royal family as a whole, and what it most likely needs to do in order to survive, if it is to survive. And so, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that changes my mind a little bit about the book. And so yesterday I decided, like, okay, I'm going to read it, since it's not Harry and Meghan's story, because that is what I just did not want. I did not want anybody else's opinion about them, because I already got it from them. And so yesterday I decided, like, okay, I'm going to read the book. So I started reading it this morning. It dropped. And well, I started at 3 a.m. and then promptly fell right back off to, I think it was like 3 a.m. I think that's when it dropped. And then I promptly fell off to sleep. And so I have to go. And of course, if you know me with reading books, I don't read books, from the beginning. I jump around and I read the chapters that I am interested in first, and then I get to the others. So I kind of read all over the place. It's exactly how I write. If I'm going to write something, whether it's an essay or whatever, is I don't write in order. I write in pieces. I write paragraphs and all over, and then I sort of fit them all together. And so that's how I write, and that's literally how I read books. And so I never read books, one chapter at a, I just don't do that. And so I started with the Prince Harry part, but I was just so tired, I fell off to sleep. So I have to go back and read that. And then this morning I got up and I was like, oh, then I saw this other part about the press, and I was like, ooh, I want to read that part. So I read that this morning, and then I read another chapter, and it's very, very interesting. And again, a lot of the stuff that we know, and I don't know if you guys are reading it, who, if people on here have read it or have at least started reading it. But the part that I was, when I was really awake this morning, I read the part about the press, and it was like, ooh, Scobie did not hold back. He did not hold back on the press. And so I'm, looking forward to reading the others. I have to go back and read the Harry part of it. I didn't see anything that says Meghan, so I'm assuming, when I fell asleep, it probably covered the Meghan as part of the Harry chapter. So, but I fell asleep, so I had to go back and read it. But I did, when I got up and I was like, oh, I realized that there was a part I really wanted to hear his take on, because again, he's part of the press, though he's not part of the British press. He has always worked for American press. I wanted to hear his take. And again, he did not hold back. And so about his view about the relationships between, or at least the relationship between the royal family, especially Prince William and Kensington Palace's relationship with the press. And it's very, very interesting. Again, stuff that we know and stuff that we have known. And if you're a squatty and don't know them, it's like, okay, really? You don't know this? Yeah, it was very, I'm happy he did it, because it puts, again, we've talked, and I've mentioned before, don't be surprised at some of the things that you would hear coming from the British press. They'll start outing themselves because they know. They knew this was coming. They knew that Scobie is not on their team, basically. That's why they attack him all the time, and disparage him in the worst ways. And because he does not toe their party lines, so quote unquote, and so that's why they attack him as they do. And so they knew that he would be outing a lot of them, and so it's just very interesting. Some things that, there are a few things that I didn't realize. I suspected, but I didn't realize. And so very interesting. But I want to jump in the chat to see if anybody has started reading it and what you're taking. We don't have to give away anything, but I just love to hear and see your take for a little bit before I get into it. If you're reading it, and if you have read it or are starting to read it, what your thoughts. Our awesome moderator Karen M says, look how they don't have a problem jumping to Kate's defense, especially when all of it is true. What is said about her? Exactly. And it's funny because I think, Kate, they have to maintain this this narrative about Kate, that she's perfect. This idea that Kate never puts a foot wrong. It's just like, I don't know anybody who's never put a foot wrong. And I think that's one of the reasons Kate probably doesn't do anything, because she's probably terrified if she, quote unquote, puts a foot wrong, they will come down hard on her. They're about to start, because the less they hear of Meghan, the more they'll have to, again, these people, they're like rabid animals who they have to feed, and they're going to feed on someone. And she is, again, not a born royal. So that would be where they'll start. She doesn't have the kind of relationship with the press that, say, Camilla has. So that's where they'll mostly start, her and Sophie. I don't think they care enough about Sophie to do it, to go after Sophie. So I think Kate would be it. So she is probably like, I need to be perfect, so therefore I can't do anything to make me not perfect, Gael, hello, Gael, says, there's something bothering me about Endgame. I'm speed reading, and it seems like a collage of spare archetypes, Oprah interview, Jabba book, and other interviews H has given. And yeah, like I was just saying, it's not new information. A lot of this stuff is not new. There are some details in it, and I think probably if you slow down and if you speed read it, then yes, none of it's kind of like Spare. When you read Spare, a lot of the stories in Spare are not new, but there are nuances that Prince Harry gave, little details that you may not have been public knowledge, that is embedded in those stories. So if you speed read it, you may miss it a little bit, or at least miss his connection to something. I think it's the same thing with this. And so yeah, none of the stories in any one of these books are new. They've been out there. Some of the details or some of the angles may be a little bit different, or the take may be a little bit different. Again, the same thing with Spare. A lot of the stories that is in Spare, we have heard before, that they've been around for years. But when you heard it from Harry, told from his perspective on the story, it makes more sense and it gives it more depth. And I think that's one of the things in here. For example, one of the things Scobie talked about is basically confirming the Byline Times article about surrounding the royal family, Prince Charles, Prince William, and their team, and Ravik and stuff, taking away, cutting off Harry and Meghan's security, and cutting off their funds when they just left, when they had just decided to leave the royal institution. And one of the things Byline Times talked about was about, because Harry refused to take Christian Jones's name off of that letter before, what is it, the letter before you basically accuse someone, I guess, whatever the legal term is, Leslie. Letter before action, I think it's called. When you're pursuing a court case against someone, there's a letter before action, basically laying out who the responsible parties for. And one of the things in that letter named Christian Jones and his boyfriend as part of the people leaking private information to Dan Wooten, who was paying for that information. Christian Jones swore up and down. I mean, we've done episodes about this where Christian Jones swore up and down that he didn't really, Dan Wooten was a distant person, that very distant, I guess, not colleague, but in the term professional, he knew him professionally, he didn't know him, he had nothing to do with the leaking, all of that stuff. But then you look at the Byline Times article, and then we realize that they were actually friends, and Christian Jones was actually at Dan Wooten's birthday party, that his boyfriend is actually also really besties with Dan Wooten. And that even the investigation into whether he had something to do with the leaking of Sussex's private information in exchange for Dan Wooten, taking away that Rose Hansbury story, and all of a sudden turning from his hatred of William to turn his hatred onto Harry and Meghan and start, publishing all these negative stories about them. All of that stuff was there. And so we remember all of that, and that because, again, Harry refused to take away Christian Jones's name from that, and basically the royal family decided to punish him. What we didn't know about that story is that Omid had a connection to that story. Christian Jones was trying to get Omid to, and I'm sorry, I don't want to give away the whole thing, but he was trying to involve Omid in trying to leak information to Dan Wooten in exchange for Dan Wooten taking away that story about Prince William and that, Kate Hansbury, or not Kate Hansbury, but Rose Hansbury. And so there are these little nuances that I had no idea that Scobie was even part. And I mean, Scobie's like, he decided to not, but you can read it and hear the whole thing of how that happened. But it also solidified what Harry's not taking Christian Jones' name off. It also solidified the Byline time story. And now Scobie is bringing his own angle that they tried to involve him in that whole thing, in trying to basically protect William, but throw Harry and Meghan under the bus. And so you see stuff like that. And then, so again, yes, a lot of it is stuff we've heard before, but there are nuances to it that we may not realize, that there are connections to that story that we didn't really know before. And that in this case, this was one of them. And so it also solidifies, like, oh my goodness, Scobie also talked about them when they wanted Harry to basically drop Christian Jones's name. It's just he talked about the correspondence from one of King Charles's closest, I guess attendants, you want to call them, or his closest people to him, sent Harry these really horrendous letters, basically demanding that he drop Christian Jones's name. And then, as Scobie told it, how they all just circled around Christian Jones. I mean, Byline Times referred to it, but when you hear it told in, with Scobie spelling it, how they circled around Christian and coddled him and basically cut Harry off. And it's just like, wait, who is the family member? Who is the family member here? And so it's very, very interesting how they are. And then, as we learned from Byline Times, and Scobie referred to it, because when the Byline Times article dropped, I remember Scobie tweeting about that. He, in his book, he wrote about exactly that same story. So it was just like, oh yeah, it's true. I wrote about that in the book. So I remember when the article dropped, Scobie tweeting that he had exactly written about that whole story. What we didn't know was that they tried to involve him in that whole thing of protecting William and throwing Harry and Meghan under the bus. So the British press are very angry. They're very angry at Scobie. So you're gonna hear a whole lot of stuff being thrown at Scobie, stuff I didn't know, about. I didn't realize Rebecca English was basically head of the Royal Rota, and she's the one in charge of coordinating who gets to be in the story and all of that stuff. And I was like, oh wow, very much interested. Very interesting that I didn't realize that she, I know she was been a royal reporter probably before the majority of them that are there now, but I didn't realize she was like sort of the head person coordinating all that stuff. So Scobie pretty much calls her out. Also, there was a lot of sort of more, I guess, a little bit more detail into some of the ways Prince William and his team, were leaking. For example, I remember months and months, probably over a year ago, we covered there was a documentary with ITV, where ITV took out Scobie talking about Prince William leaking information to the press about Harry's mental health, and ITV taking it out. And because, the palace basically threatened them. And so there's a lot more information in the book about that situation and what went down and how involved Prince William was in basically pressuring ITV to take out Scobie's part on the documentary, where they basically just muted what he was saying, that where he basically said it was William and his team that really was leaking that information so people can basically question Prince Harry's mental health. So there's like stuff, there's little nuggets in there that you may not realize, or I didn't realize how much the involvement was. So it was good to, even though we knew, we figured it out, but it's always for me good when I get inside confirmation that, okay, what we were thinking and what we were saying was absolutely the truth. And so, yeah, so again, a lot of this stuff isn't new, but it's also good to see, like, on the other side what they saw. And so when you compare both sides, like, oh, okay, yeah, we weren't crazy when we were saying this stuff. We saw it. We didn't have the absolute information there, but we could figure it out. So yeah. Let's see. Cookies and Cream says, Lydia, it's a shame that Sammy's case is allowed to proceed. However, I'm not shocked at the judge's decision. I thought it was odd how the judge kept giving her multiple chances. I don't think did they made this announcement that it's proceeding? I know they had like they had a hearing. I don't know that I think Daily Beast said that it's proceeding, but I don't think that's correct. And so unless other information came out since I came offline, I don't think that's correct. I think they had a hearing. I think it was last week. I think it was the day that Harry and Meghan, where were they? I think they were in Toronto. Or either Toronto or when they were in Vegas, something like that. I don't remember what day it was. No, actually, it was a day when they were in San Diego with the Navy SEALs. They had a hearing, and so I don't know that we have a confirmation that is going forward. I think we're waiting on the judge's decision that it's going forward. I could be wrong. So if it's the Daily Beast article that you're going on, I don't think that's correct. So yeah. But Leslie, if you're here, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, but yeah, I don't think there is. Lydia says, Pedal, there is a date set for November 4th. Oh, okay. So then I'm wrong. Okay. I didn't realize that. I knew that. Okay. So I'm wrong. Then there you go. Leslie said, no announcement has been released yet. No decision since last hearing. This is what I thought. There has been no decision. This is what I thought. I know they had the hearing, but I don't think. But again, who knows? It's just, the more we go on, maybe. I know that the Daily Beast had put out an article, and that was incorrect. And so who knows? But again, as I said, from the first day of this case, from the first day this case happened, I said about Florida. Florida is different. I've spoken about that judge from day one. I am not surprised at any of this stuff happening, and I hope you guys aren't surprised, because we talked about this from day one, what was going to happen with a judge in Florida. And that was the reason why I think that case was filed in Florida, because that's what Florida is. I am not surprised by this. This case, there is no reason this case should have been going on for this long. It is ridiculous. But there you go. It's just like this. We talked about this from day one. So anyway, so back to Scobie and the stuff. So all the stuff that's going on, and obviously the British press is going crazy. They're attacking Scobie. They're attacking the Sussexes. They are convinced themselves that Scobie and the Sussexes have written the book, or they've, it doesn't matter what Scobie says, that he's not their mouthpiece, he's not their spokesperson, whatever, they are still going to believe it. On the flip side, there are always, leaks and sources from their faves in the palace. They never consider themselves the mouthpieces, but anytime, because Scobie would not attack the Sussexes, he's their mouthpiece. But when you put that right back on them, like, well, then if Scobie is Harry and Meghan's mouthpiece, then therefore you are William and Kate's mouthpiece, because y'all are always licking their boots. So then, what are you complaining about? So it's very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. So let's see. Let's see. I'm just staying in the chat from. Oh, Leslie went off. Oh, bye, Leslie. Leslie went off. So yeah. Um, let's see. Um, I think many of us are Little Mac is oh, she's talking to Trevor saying, agree, why is this case allowed to drag on and on and on? Florida. That's all I'm gonna say on that. Florida is what I've said from the beginning. Florida. And so it just, yeah, it yeah. Anyways, moving on. So again, with this book, the royal family, they're claiming like, oh my goodness, they're claiming that uh, there is no way that Prince William, because a lot of in the book obviously is talking about the leaking from the palace, leaking from especially Kensington Palace. And we know that for a fact. I mean, I don't understand why anybody would even try to defend that, but sure enough, leave it to Prince William. I always thought, go back to Prince William. Well, very much not a racist family. And it's, you're like, Prince William, have you met your family? Have you met the members of your family to claim like we are very much not a racist family? Well, this is in the same vein. Prince William allies hit out an outrageous suggestion he briefed against Prince Harry following claims by Meghan's, there you go again, Meghan's mouthpiece, not Meghan Harry's, Meghan's mouthpiece, Omid Scobie. And his friends claim that it's outrageous that Prince William would brief against Harry. It comes ahead of publication of Scobie's new book on the royals. And it's just like, okay, if I am Prince William and I know my history, there was a lot of things you can defend yourself on. This wouldn't be the one. If I am smart, if I have one piece of brain, the size of a pea, this is not the area I'll choose to defend myself on. Why? There is too much evidence out there to the contrary. This is completely something that anybody could just go on Google and put Prince William leak, and you will find tons and tons of evidence of leaking from Prince William's Kensington Palace. I mean, again, if you're going to be standing on a hill claiming something, this is not the one to die on because you've been doing it's just the evidence is there. And not only the evidence there, reporters who are your mouthpieces have all outed you. And so it's just so ridiculous that his so-called friends, those quote-unquote friends of Prince William, or allies, quote-unquote allies, are like, no, that's outrageous. And then, all you got to do is look. I mean, I'm just going to use one example of literally this is, Prince William, a lot of times what he doesn't do, direct leaking. He uses his mouthpiece in the press to leak stuff about him. And so there's this article back in 2019, before Harry and Meghan even left the royal family. It started out with, I put my arms, the Sunday Times article, I think by Roy Anika, I put my arms around my brother all our lives and I can't do it anymore. And then I guess the palace realize like, oh, maybe that doesn't sound quite well. So they changed the article to something about, that we have to work together or some craziness like that. And, we remember this article with Prince William, who did not serve in uniform, and Harry, who served in civilian clothes. Of course, we know they did that on purpose. And so that article was there in 2019. And then we didn't learn how that article, that front page Sunday Times article came about until the next year, July of the next year. And it came via this gentleman called Martin Ivers writing this article for Bloomberg Wire. Or at least it's an article from the Times that Bloomberg Wire picked up. And this is from Sunday Times editor Martin Ivers. Martin Ivers says, in my meetings, not meeting, but meetings, so there are several, in my meetings with Prince William, I have found him to be steelier, sharp-edged figure than his public image of soft voice suggests. He's nobody's fool. Many of his barbs are aimed at organizations like Facebook Inc., which think they can easily patronize him or deflect him from his concerns about the malign effects of social media on the mental health of young people. This deal was in evidence when his brother, for so long comrade in arm after the death of his mother Diana, appeared to go off the reservation, or, there again, attacking Harry's mental health, and embark upon the war against the press. It's in an unlikely venue of a South London pub during a televised England match against Czech Republic, William, in his oblique way, the way royals speak, told me he couldn't put his arm around his brother's shoulder anymore, and not long after that, Prince Harry was off on his American travels. And again, this is one case of William literally briefing against Harry, and we didn't know how exactly Roy Mika came to this article, but here, we read this with this reporter from the Times years ago. I think it was back in 2019. Talked about Prince William meeting with all of these editors from different from different news outlets to basically solidify his position as heir to the throne, and sort of they were propping him out. They were building him up even back then as the global statesman and all of that stuff. And so William is meeting with all of these editors, building these relationships with all of these editors. And one of the things the piece says is with these editors, they started all of a sudden writing all of these negative articles against Prince Harry. And this is one of the situations where William literally is meeting with this editor. And then it's funny, the editor in this article is almost quoting word for word what the article in the Sunday Times said the year before. William saying, I put my arms around my brother and I can't do it anymore. And who's that person? Martin Ivers, editor for the Sunday Times, and that's him at the bottom there. And so this is just one of the many times. I mean, again, just go Google and you can find one of the many times William. Again, we also have William's bestie. We just talked about Christian Jones, Dan Wooten, all of a sudden got in the mix, who, as the Byline Times was telling you, told us how much he hated William. And all of a sudden that old stuff, Dan Wooten put out this article about William and Rose Hansbury and Kate and Rose Hansbury falling out. And all of a sudden the palace freaks out and they needed to cover for William. And then all of a sudden Christian Jones got involved. And Dan Wooten became, went from hating William overnight to become his best friend. But even Dan Wooten, we remember that very famous video of Dan Wooten saying, when Meghan and Harry were complaining that people in the palace were that they were complaining about the negative articles in the press, and Dan Wooten was like, well, don't blame us, those negative stories are coming from within the royal family. And then this article, I remember back in 2022 or 2021, I even tweeted this reporter at the bottom. She said, in her newsroom, all of the negative stories that came into her newsroom about the Sussexes were from Kensington Palace, over and over and over. And then we also have, when Meghan was suing the Daily Mail, William allowed his Jason Knauf to basically not only testify, he gave, totally wiped out the NDA, just allowed Jason Knauf to go off and not only testify against Meghan, in favor of the Daily Mail, but also handed over Meghan's private email and text, and also Prince Harry's private email to the Daily Mail, so that they can win against so that they could win against Meghan. I mean, there's evidence of William leaking information. Ted Verity, the editor of the Daily Mail, said before the case even, before they even went to court, that was one of his first things he did when the case began, was a letter to the judge laying out the fact that he met with a senior member of the royal household who basically leaked information about Meghan to him. Ted Verity was the editor of the Daily Mail. And so so the very idea that William and his people could be like, they choose the, oh, William never leaks. And I mean, of all the things you could defend yourself on, I would stay away from that. I would not put that out there. I would want people to forget that I did that, and I will pick something else. But to pick something where, it's like, oh, William would never leak on Harry. I mean, gosh, Robert Lacey's book. Robert Lacey in his book said William allowed his friend to come talk to him. And we remember all the horrible things in Robert Lacey. And Robert Lacey was this historian who then, when he updated his book about Harry and William, decided to turn over and put aside his credibility and turn over half of his book to William's friend, who was leaking, who leaked all of this horrible stuff about Meghan, especially, and all of this stuff, calling her a bully. Literally, William's staff, William allowed his friend to tell Robert Lacey, and he was perfectly fine with him, telling Robert Lacey that about his staff that referred to Harry and Meghan as damaged goods. We covered all of this in episodes past. And so for them to pick this as the thing to stand on, I was like, dude, this is stupid. This is about the stupidest thing you could have done. Because again, there's too much evidence there where William has leaked, not only leaked, but literally out there. When you put yourself in court and you go so far as to go to court, you really are serious about damaging the credibility of Meghan and your own brother. So to pick this as the thing, it was like, this is stupid. But again, William has never come across as someone with common sense. So maybe that's just, another example of William just having zero common sense. So anyways, that is, yeah. Anyways, and away from that nonsense for a second, someone posted this on Twitter, and I didn't even know about this. I mean, we talked about William and the Time 100 list. This came out about, a week after William did his Earthshot mess, and obviously he was left off the list because William is so unserious about this Earthshot stuff. Nobody takes William serious with this stuff, so no wonder he was left out of the Time 100 list. But a squatty posted it, and I didn't even know it was there. Prince Harry, Prince Philip, and Prince Albert biography collection of the most influential princes. And I was like, yeah, once again, William is left off. And again, this book was from 2021. I didn't know it was there. I had to go back and and see. But again, William, no matter how much they try to build this guy up, there is literally nothing there. There is nothing there. There is no anything there. And it just, this idea that, again, the British press and those who are in William and Kate's bubble, they do them no favors. I know that they want them to be these big statespeople and they want to make an impact in their stuff. But the way how they have been coddling them has done so much damage to these two. They're not growing because the people around them refuse to let them grow. And then they refuse to let them grow. And then they try to present them to us as these people who are doing great things. And of course, everybody can see it's like the emperor has no clothes here. There's no clothes. You're presenting people as perfect and they're not. And everybody can see it. And you look stupid doing it. They look stupid doing it. And it's very... it's really, really funny. Marjorie says, W has the nerve now of making demands of Harry to come out publicly to distance himself from Scobie. Can you imagine the nerve of some people? I know. I mean, hello. Why would Harry come out and distance? For what reason? For what reason? Let them stew. And also, too, I mean, Scobie just... he just testified on behalf on Harry's team recently in the Mirror case against Piers Morgan. I know Piers Morgan is out there screaming about, oh, I didn't call Camilla, because apparently in the book, and I haven't read that part yet, where because we know Piers Morgan was saying that the royals called him and thanked him when he was attacking Meghan, when Meghan talked about her mental health and being suicidal and all, having suicidal ideations and stuff. And he claimed that members of the royal family called and thanked him, and Scobie named Camilla. And so Piers Morgan is screaming about that. And so, I know some people, they probably believe Piers Morgan, but again, just remember, Piers Morgan is the one who claims he never hacked anybody. Meanwhile, people at the mirror are like, yeah, you have, and so, yeah. And he didn't know about hacking and all of that stuff. And Scobie worked at the Mirror as a student journalist. And he was like, yeah, they all knew. And so yes, I mean, these people live, they're talking, they're lying. So but then they would be always calling, well, Scobie lie, Scobie lie. I mean, have there been things that Scobie has gotten wrong? Yeah, Scobie even talked about things that he got wrong in Finding Freedom, some things that was briefed to him incorrectly or basically flat out lying, like when they said Meghan has this sort of security training that was briefed to him that was a complete lie. He mentioned that. He mentioned about Meghan because Meghan and Harry had said that they were not a part of Finding Freedom. They did not help him write Finding Freedom. So he talked about that in the book as well. And so, yeah, so it's just, yeah, well, I mean, why would Harry, I'm happy Harry and Meghan have said nothing. Let them stew in it. Let's see. Marcia says, just saw that on the UK ITV news that in Neverland, their book named the person who talked about Archie's skin color was named in the Netherlands. It said Neverland. The book named the person who talked about Archie's skin color was named and are pulling the books off the shelves. Well, how did the name get in the book? if I mean, did the original have the name? That wouldn't have been. That's weird that they would have the name of the people in the book. That is very, very odd that would happen. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But since it's there, and I'm assuming people have read it. I'm assuming the names will come out, which very interesting. Anne Louis says, why was Prince Philip's will sealed for 100 years? What's there to hide? All of their wills are sealed for 100 years, which is ridiculous. I know The Guardian has been trying, and others have been trying to get that unsealed, but the royals, as usual, they are secretive. They don't want people to know how much money they have. They don't want people to know how much money they make. They don't want people. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, if it wasn't for the Guardian digging the other day, we wouldn't know. I mean, it wasn't secret that they were taking money from the dead, because I've talked about it on here before, because I think it was either the New York Times or some article in the US for a US news outlet talked about Prince Charles taking money from the dead. When people die on their duchy property, if they don't have a next of kin, the money goes to King Charles. I've talked about that on here because it was in a US article. What I didn't know was that they had said that the money would go to charity. And obviously, because there is no oversight, the money has not gone to charity. And it's like, these people are grifters. I don't understand why they would trust them to do anything without oversight. And as with everything royal, they just sort of trust the royals to be honest. I mean, especially you're dealing with King Charles here, with all the money issues that this man has had, with all the grifting, with all the shady money from money in a suitcase, money cash in a bag, and all of that stuff. Why would you trust the royal family with anything like this? And they trusted them, that they said they were going to be putting it in, the money was going to go to charity. And obviously it wasn't. It's going into their pocket, as with everything else. And it's not just King Charles. This was happening when the Queen was alive. And so that's why, for me, when people are talking about, the Queen as this kindly old grandmother with gray hairs, I'm like, yeah, that's what she looks like while she's robbing you blind. And that's why I am not here for Queen Betty. I am not. Look, I am about grandma. I was raised by my grandma, and I respect old people. But Queen Betty is not your normal elderly grandmother. This woman she was a grifter all the way through. And so the thing is, people just don't want to believe that of Queen Betty, because she was the one that was she had the Duchy of Lancaster that was hers for all of the time she's been queen. And for all of this time, she has been reaping the benefits, over 60 million pounds of dead people's money and property. And they were benefiting from that. And so when she died, the Duchy of Lancaster went over to King Charles. King Charles had the Duchy of Cornwall, which is now Prince William's. The heir to the throne gets the Duchy of Cornwall. And so the money is now, that the dead people's money is now going to Prince William, the same one who was like, oh, but I want to do stuff and I want to, build houses for the homeless. And I'm like, yeah, well, all those dead people's property, whose money that y'all are taking, and those homes that y'all take from dead people, why don't you just give those to, homeless people? Hello. But again, all of that stuff is just talk. They're not doing it. They're just profiting off of people while they just talk and talk and talk and do nothing. And so again, without oversight, I don't understand why people are shocked. For the life of me, I would never understand why people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. Well, yeah, that's what grifters do. That was grifters do. And even when they're like, oh, we're giving money to charity, usually the money to charity is a charity that King Charles and the royal family set up. So the money that they're claiming is going to charity is going to a charity they set up, which end up going into their pockets. It's kind of like King Charles, when he was with the Duchy of Cornwall, he was like, yeah, I'm paying taxes. But the taxes, what he's doing is paying taxes to the Duchy of Cornwall. And who benefits from the Duchy of Cornwall? Who gets the money from the Duchy of Cornwall? King Charles. So basically, he's paying taxes to himself. Yeah. That is the, sometimes I think, I'm like, is this a country? Is this a real country? Because the stupidity of this is just like, I feel like I lose brain cells the more I read about this stuff, because it's so stupid. You're allowing someone to pay taxes to an entity that they own, and the person who benefits from that entity is the person who paying the taxes. So basically, the person is basically paying the taxes to themselves. And it's, again, you lose brain cells because this is what is accepted. You're like, okay, all right. Anyways, that's the kind of nonsense that you deal with this. And to hear people, in the press or in even Norman Baker, who wrote that book, and what do you do about the royal family and the grifting in the royal family, he wrote an article the other day about how shocked he is. And I was like, really, Norman? You're really shocked after the book you wrote about the royal family? You're really shocked that they're grifters? You're really shocked that they are not giving money to the charity they said they're giving it to? Like, I'm like, how are you shocked with this? It's unbelievable. So anyways, moving on from this nonsense. And talk about the grifters. So Daily Mail have this article. You guys remember, Captain Tom, that elderly captain who he passed on now, passed on from COVID. But apparently, he did this whole fundraiser for the NHS. It was a big thing in the UK. And he raised all these millions walking around, I guess, his property or something, for the NHS during COVID. And now it turns out his daughter is, a grifter, and she's been taking money and pocketing money from the charity instead of the money that people donated going to whatever they said it was going to go to. And so now it's a big hubbub about her basically grifting, and basically the charity is not receiving the money that is supposed to receive, and a lot of it is going into her pocket. And so my thing is, I kind of just put them together because it's no different from what she is doing than what King Charles is doing. So if you're going to be attacking her, then you got to have the same energy for King Charles, because it's the same thing. They're saying like, oh, she pocketed 18,000 to judge some award thing, and she got 18,000. The charity only received 2,000. Well, King Charles was pocketing 60 million pounds, and the charity that he was supposed to donate to only got 15%. So she learned from the best. If the leader of your country is grifting, and if the leader of your country is ripping off dead people and ripping off charities, well, what do you expect the people, their subjects to be doing? Following the leader. So if you're gonna have the going after her, then you gotta have the same energy, and actually more energy, for King Charles, who is doing even worse than she is. I mean, that's beside all the cash in a suitcase, all that mess. So I like, that's very, very interesting. It's just like, well, she's just following King Charles's lead. So that's what I say on that one. And so now that King Charles has been caught and, been exposed, and I guess now he's feeling a little bit embarrassed about it. Now we get word that new King Charles is transferring more than 100 million pounds of his estate investments, including funds collected from dead people under the archaic system called bona vacantia, into ethical funds after investigation by The Guardian. The King's estate has announced it's transferring more than 100 million, including funds collected from the dead under the archaic system, what we just read, into ethical investment funds after the investigation from The Guardian. The surprise announcement came amid growing pressure on the King over the Duchy of Lancaster's use of funds collected from people who die in northwest of England with no will or next of kin. On Thursday, The Guardian revealed some of the funds were secretly being used to renovate properties that are owned by the King and rented out for profit by his estate. The Duchy conceded that some bona vacantia revenues are financing the restoration of what it calls public and historical properties. However, the King's estate has also been battling separate questions over its management of another portion of bona vacantia funds that are given to his charities. So basically, now that he's caught, he's like, well, I'm going to transfer 100 million into ethical investments. It's like, really? Ethical funds? Yeah, really? Who's going to be benefiting from that? And so unless they go in and get the numbers and all of this, and unless the press or whomever or the government appoints somebody, as to oversee this, they're going to continue to rip off people. I mean, this whole thing of that they're going to be transferring 100 million over is not, it's just like, that's just to basically get people to shut up. And so unless there is some kind of oversight of this money, this is just all just talk. And when this died down, they're going to go right back to doing what they're doing. So again, without any kind of oversight, this is just absolute nonsense. And I love Scottish people because the Scottish outlets always put it, they always say what they need to say about this stuff. And I'm just going to move my brand there so that way I can read this. Scottish National, who they are not into the royals at all. It says, in response to the latest update, Scottish anti-monarchy group Our Republic told National it is nothing more than a PR exercise, which, that transferring that 100 million, yeah, it's PR. This is a brazen example of, I'm not sorry I did it, I'm just sorry I got caught, a spokesman for the group said. Charles and his family have been profiting from the dead of those they consider subject for decades, and it has never once crossed their thoughts that their morbid exploitation of ancient laws may not be right. It goes on further. The article says, Scottish Greens MSP Maggie Chapman said, it is astonishing that the monarchy is trying to greenwash such ill-gotten investments. You simply can't appear ethical after being caught taking tens of millions of pounds from the dead. Like the abhorrent archaic feudal law that exploited the gains to gain this wealth, the monarchy is long past its sell-by date. It's time Scotland abolished this self-serving, anti-democratic institution for good. Here, Maggie, I totally agree. It is ridiculous that of all of these times, unless, they would have just keep if the Guardian didn't catch them, they would have still gone, continued, and they're going to still continue again without oversight. This is just PR. This is absolutely just PR. So there. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely, absolutely ridiculous. So I'm just going to jump in the chat here. I think I see some people talking more about Kanitha says Samantha lawsuit against Meghan is scheduled for December 2024, according to GBN. I am very disappointed. Again, if this is GB News, I will wait for absolute factual information. I'm not sure this is correct, but again, I could be wrong. Let's see. Rochelle says they investigate Harry for transferring money from one charity to another, done by the rules, but Casey and now Willie rules don't apply. It's the same thing. Again, the Charity Commission is investigating that lady, Captain Tom's daughter, but none of them, they're not investigating this. They should be on this. I mean, when they realize that the royal family has scammed them out of that, whatever portion of that 60 million pounds. They should have been on it. I am yet to hear anything from the Charity Commission. They have not said a word. I mean, we remember with the cash in the bag, cash in the suitcase, all of that stuff. The Charity Commissioner looked at it like, oh, nothing here, nothing to see here. They're not, the charity said they were on the up and up, so we believe them. Nothing. But you know who they went after? Remember Ngozi Fulani's charity? When she called out the Queen Camilla and her team for their racist behavior when they, Susan Hussey were questioning her about where she's from and all of that stuff. All of a sudden, the Charity Commission went after her little charity. Her charity that takes, supports African and Caribbean women, domestic violence, women who have suffered domestic violence. They went after her charity. Meanwhile, said nothing about King Charles's charity. Nothing to see here. There's no wrongdoing. And so it's the same thing. They're not going to do anything. Especially King Charles. I mean, they can't do anything to him because he is, he's the monarch, and so he is he's immune to any of that stuff. They can't charge him for anything, but they haven't said a word about his organization, whatever his organizations are, or whomever it is that's a part of administering or supposedly overseeing this. They have said nothing about going after those people. It's just, I don't know. It just, again, is this a country? Is this a real country? I don't know. So, let's see. Let's stay in the chat for a bit. Dolores says the royal family really believe they are ordained by God. Yeah, they really do. They really do. And they really believe that and the thing about it is, we can say that everybody, no one is above the law. But in fact, we've talked about this numerous times here. The upper, quote unquote, upper class, the rich, especially rich white people, whether it's in the US, the UK, wherever, none of them operate, under the law. They all operate above the law. And so when you look at it, you realize the law seems to be created by them to control the people who don't have money or who don't have their status. The law is for us. They create the law to control us. They are not subject to the law. And that is how they live their life. And so any idea or any law enforcement person saying no one is above the law, that's a lie. That is a blatant lie. And in the UK, I mean, hello. Anybody could see that none of them operate under the law. None of them do. So it's very interesting to me. Yeah, but who knows? I would hope that the Charity Commission, but I don't think they will. I don't think they will. And again, as this the National said, this is just a PR move. This is a PR move so that when it dies down, nobody's going to talk about it. And then they are just going to go back to doing whatever it is they do. So, yeah. Anyways, moving on. What else I have? Oh, I'm telling you, talk about people who never ever gonna, Anyway, Simon Case, we remember him. Scobie talks about him in his book about, especially that Flybe jet thing Scobie brings up again. Simon Case, we know that Simon Case has, as Harry termed him, the fly, that every kind of caca there is around the government or wherever Simon Case is, as a fly, he is very attracted to that. So there's a whole lot of mess. Now that he's left Prince William and gone back to the government, there are even articles that are saying, why is Simon Case involved in so many controversies? So Simon Case, I guess, couldn't stand the heat of all the caca that he's made all around the government. He took a leave of absence, like, I don't know, a couple months ago. And so now this dropped the other day. Cabinet Secretary will not give evidence to inquiry this year. Before today's hearing got underway, the inquiry chair, Baroness Hallett, announced that the current cabinet secretary, the UK most senior civil servant, will not give evidence this year. Simon Case was formally excused from appearing due to ill health, and an update on his ability to give evidence will be given at the end of January or when he returns to work from sick leave. Baroness Hallett said in her ruling, it very much remains my intention that Mr. Case should give oral evidence to the inquiry. So this is about the 9/11 thing that he's supposed to give evidence for. And I think Simon Case, honestly, look, if he is sick, I don't want to say that he's not, but it's very suspect. It's very, very suspect. He took time off. I guess now the heat got to him, I guess, of all the mess he's created. And now he's like, I can't give evidence. I'm sick. And also what I saw in an article that Simon Case was also given a heads up that he is in Scobie's book and not spoken of in very good terms, obviously, as the fly, as Harry puts it. And so I guess Simon Case is like, I'm sick. I can't deal. And it's very funny. It is very, very funny. But again, karma. And also talking about karma, I ran into this on Twitter. The Grand Tour Jeremy Crossan shares dementia fears as he admits, my body doesn't really work anymore. And I tried to find the article, but they somehow have deleted the article, it seems. But I'm telling you, karma on all of these people who have attacked the Sussexes in whatever way, I'm telling you, karma. That's all I'm going to say. I don't wish dementia on anyone because look, it is a horrible thing. It is absolutely it robs people of their life, and so I don't wish that that's the situation. But you look at people again, these people who have done these horrible things to the Sussexes, and in all these ways, and in all of them, karma visits them in some way, shape, or form. And you would think that they would be looking at this and be like, maybe I better not be attacking the Sussexes because every time we do, something is happening. But it's very interesting to me that all of these people that have gone out of their way to attack two people who have done nothing to them, you find all of this stuff happening. So for his sake, I'm hoping, that it's not dementia. I don't wish that, not that he deserves it, my good wishes. But, again, I don't wish that sort of thing. It totally destroys and robs people of their lives. And I understand. But, it's just very interesting that this stuff visits people. And I'm telling you, the ancestors are like, you don't come after my children and not suffer the consequences. So there you go. Anyway, so I'm going to stay in the chat for a bit and see what you guys are up to and what you're talking about. If it's anything what I was talking about or other things. Dolores says, that's why the royal family keep things hidden due to their corruption. Oh yeah, they don't want people to know. They've hidden this whole thing about robbing the dead people. They don't, I mean, I guess if I was robbing dead people, I wouldn't want anybody to know. So yeah, there you go. So they, whether it's wills or all of that stuff, whether it's the Queen's will or even Princess Diana's will, none of the royals, every single one of them, their wills are sealed. And it's all that 99-year thing. And so yeah, there's so many other things about the royal family that whether it's historical things, again, we've talked about this, where they would be upset about things written in the Crown. Not that, I'm not saying go watch the Crown, that's horrible, but they were complaining that things weren't correct. And again, that historian last year was like, well, if it's not correct, it's your fault, because we've been trying to get documents from the royal family and they refuse. They've gone to court they've spent so much money going to court and stuff to try to get historical documents from the royal family, and they have not been able to get it. So if things are correct, incorrect, it's the royal family's fault. So yeah. Karen Warner is here. Hello, Karen. She says, I always say, don't trust Charles. Everything he or they do benefits him and them. From William said he's solving my thoughts. Were this how we intend to solve it? Exactly what they did all along. I'm not sure I understand the second part of it, but I totally agree. I don't understand why anybody would trust anything from the royal family. Again, if these people are talking, they're lying. And so I would not trust anything. And again, you don't have, other than the occasion where you have, say, the Guardian doing these kind of investigations and Byline Times and Byline Investigates, there are not enough press out there, the big news outlets that will hold them accountable to anything. So they would just lie and they would just hide things. And you don't have a government that there are people there that have the power to say no to the royal family. The people who are working with them all are such, they're sycophants, and they will just bow to whatever the royal family wants, and they will cave. And so the royal family has been getting away. Stuff is not new. They have been getting away with this stuff for years and years and years. How did they build the wealth that they have? With the civil list, they would skim money off the top. And all the time. So every year they get the civil list, they skim money off the top, save it for themselves, they buy property with it. And then, with the rest of it, then they use it for engagements or whatever else they're doing. This is what they did for years and years and years. And that's how they build the wealth. They claim, oh, no, we don't have enough money. We don't have enough money. And when they get the money, they skim some off the top, save it for themselves. And that's what they did. And the government allowed them to do it. And so nobody has held them accountable for anything. So yeah. Anne says Simon will be saying he has mental issues and can't give any evidence on anything. Oh, of course. Of course. Of course. It's crazy. And look, don't be surprised if he doesn't. With that royal connection and all of that stuff, don't be surprised if he doesn't. So yeah. Regular folks like us wouldn't be able to get away with that, but they always do. So let's see. Dolores says the royal family has 4,000 patronage and only 7 senior royals to cover them. People don't really even know how many has closed because they are not given this information. Even when there were a lot, when there were much more senior royals doing stuff, the majority of these organizations, these charities, didn't see these people, maybe once a year, maybe some of them years they didn't see them. I guess they could say, yes, I have a royal patronage, and maybe that'll help them to get a little bit more money. But according to Just Giving, they did a whole study on if the royal family makes a difference to these charities. Like, do they benefit from having a royal patron? And the answer is no. They don't. And so the idea, even the idea that you can have all of these patronages and then they are benefit, that's ridiculous. The majority of these charities don't see them. That's there so people could think they are doing, they're doing something. A lot of these people, they don't benefit from having royal patrons. So, and I mean, the Queen has I don't even know why people, like, I don't understand why there's not more investigation into, even say, for example, this. How could you have, I mean, how could you be of benefit to 4,000 pages? That just, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And so if they're honest reporting, they will just break this down and just expose it for the nonsense that it is. So yeah. Let's see. Anne says the Royals are promoting food and baby banks, homeless and poverty, turning up the smile and shake hands. More like, thank you very much for your taxpayer money and money from the dead. Disgusting. Pretty much. So let's see. Irene says, you know that saying, you can't embarrass some people? He's one of them. Bags of cash for years. No, he's king now. He doesn't want his reign marred by new scandal. But 100 million goes back to the king. Yeah, I mean, he is counting on, yes, it's embarrassing for a couple of days. So he is counting on, I mean, especially now that Scobie's book is out, that this whole using Harry and Meghan and attaching Harry and Meghan, he's counting on all of those things to cover up for the next couple of weeks. And by, in a couple of weeks, people are going to forget about this. And that's what they do. They cover this up, even though they report on it for a day or two. They pack so many things on top of that by in a week or so, nobody will remember that Charles was robbing the dead of 100 million pounds. They would never remember this. And so they are just counting on that. And so, we'll come back next year and we'll be in the same exact place. It's amazing. So, and I don't know why people who live on the duchy farms and stuff, or duchy property and stuff, I don't know why they don't really complain. They just sort of take it and they don't say anything. And I never understood that. So yeah. Oh wow. Karen says she's watching Rosalind Carter service, was distracted. Oh wow, I didn't realize today was her funeral. Oh man. Again, deep condolences to her family and President Carter. So wow. Marjorie says, oh, Bonnie, she said, talking to Bonnie, yes, there are forgetfulness and can or may advance to dementia, but there are many types of dementia and also 5 stages of it. Yeah, dementia is no joke, man. And so again, even though I am not here for Jeremy Clarkson, I wish better things for him, because I know how that destroys your life. And it doesn't just destroy yours, I mean your family as well. And so yeah, it really is destructive for everybody involved. And so I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So yeah. Oh, thank you, Lydia. There, 589 in the chat. Yes, please go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. Please get the notification bell, so you know when we drop a video, and like and share the video and join the 2 Cents crew if you're able. That would be awesome. Thank you, Lydia. I appreciate. So yeah. And Chody says Simon Case right hand of former PM Bojo is as corrupt as they come. The Fly, as he was zoologically depicted in Spare, was spot on. I'm telling you, Harry nailed him. I'm telling you, how perfect was that? And ever since Spare, just seeing all the things and the mess Simon Case has been involved in, it's like, yep. So every time another mess comes up, everyone refer back to Harry calling him a fly, because they always refer to Harry's description of him flying around, flitting around, and caca. That's my roommate always calls it caca. So yeah. Let's see. Dolores says, I'm hoping Byline Times investigate the Heritage Foundation. Isn't Heritage Foundation a U.S. Foundation? I think it's U.S. I know the guy from the U.K. is a part of it, but I think he, if I'm not mistaken, I think he lives in the U.S. in D.C. what scary people. They are just really, it's, I mean, that the kind of hate these people have is unbelievable to me. I it's just like, wow. Let's see. What else? Let's see. I'm just scrolling through the chat. Joy says that man is trying to find a way out of what he said about Meghan dementia. You know, they will try everything. And so, but I mean, for his sake, I hope, I hope that the article went away. Again, I was trying to find the article so I can get more details about it. And when I clicked on it, they took the article down. So I don't know if he just didn't want that out there or if it was not correct, but that's what it says. So yeah, I don't know why they took it down. So Elizabeth is like, vengeance is the Lord, reap what you sow. I'm telling you, a lot of them who have attacked the Sussexes, I've learned that, I don't know if they noticed the pattern. I mean, these people have no self-awareness, so I'm assuming that they have not. So yeah. Let's see. Karen says, that is what British people and the UK people worship. I know for sure God didn't ordain the royals or anyone to steal from the dead or people. Well, you know how rich people always ordain themselves as leaders or controllers, especially especially the people that they're trying to control are Black and brown people. But yeah, they always set themselves up as chosen by God for this, and it's just like, no. So anyways, actually, I think that's it, guys. I think that's all I got. Thank you all. I'm gonna go in and look up to see, just to get confirmation about that Meghan case, which is extremely frustrating. I've been frustrated about that case from day one. We've talked about it from day one, and so we know that anything in Florida, expect anything, because I don't care if you're, I know that people was like, yeah, she's the Obama judge, like Obama appointed her, but Florida people are different. I'm sorry, Leslie. This is not about you. I know Leslie's like, no, we're not. But there's something about Florida. I don't know what is in the water down there, but it's Florida. So yeah. Yeah, yes, this is true. Neil is a British is British citizen, but he is in the U.S. And so I mean, they definitely can investigate. There's no reason to not investigate, but I don't know that it will make an impact because heritage is in the U.S. And so well, maybe they have a British chapter. I don't know. I've never looked into it, so that could be something too. So very interesting. Let's see. And says they are being called out and karma is knocking at their doors. Their popularity and reputation are at stake, truth be known. And I think one of the things with him too, I think I read somewhere recently that his show, that he does like a car show or something like that, that is, I think they're terminating that show, or it was terminated or something like that. I have to go back and check on it, but I think that's what I read. So yeah, it seems karma is visiting and is staying a while with Jeremy. So let him and karma hang out for a bit. So yeah. Darlene says, hi, Pedal, just joined. Apparently, Sky News has just released a press release that the Dutch production of Endgame has released the name of the person who mentioned Archie's skin color. Oh, okay. Yeah, someone had mentioned that earlier. So I have no idea how that would be and how, that's weird how that would, I'm not sure how that they'll have to do some investigation how that happened. But I'm sure if it's out there, then I'm sure somebody somewhere is going to say who that person is. So yeah, very, very, very interesting that is the case. I don't know that I've ever heard of that happening elsewhere, but I mean, whoever, I think Day Street Books, who is the one that published that book, have a lot of explaining to do. They'll have a whole lot of explaining to do on how that happened. And I would assume lawsuits would be, that was a reason why Scobie did not put it in the book, because, people could sue. So I would assume, I would expect, if that's the case, that somebody will get sued somewhere. Very interesting. But again, with the royal family, I wouldn't be surprised that any of, at whomever it is, the racist person. I mean, I don't think any of us would be surprised, because, knowing that family, nobody would be surprised. So yeah. Let's see. Nathan, hello, Nathan Dixon says, I am surprised that they haven't accused Meghan yet of being a witch and hexing the folks whose karma has visited. You never know. You don't speak so soon, Nathan. They just will start. They just may start. It's like, it's all Meghan's fault. It's all Meghan's fault. So yeah. Gail says, it was a mistake translation. They named Charles. Oh my goodness. Okay, with these, oh goodness. King Charles is like, oh my gosh, first I'm a thief, now I'm a racist. Oh my word. So, but anyways, Day Street Books, I'm telling you, when you deal with Rupert Murdoch's people, again, Day Street Books is Rupert Murdoch, one of his entities. You deal with these people, something is going to be amiss. So who knows? So yeah. Shella says, all of Harry's relatives cast vile aspirations about Archie's potential skin tone while in the universe, but Willie Leaks and Duplicate were the most vile about it. And apparently, and I haven't read that part yet, apparently when Archie was born, that, there were all of these articles about William and Kate going over. Apparently, they only went there for 20 minutes. I was just like, what? I was just like, okay. It's crazy. But we'll see. Anyways, guys, I think that's it. I think that's all I got. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Thank you to our awesome moderators, Lydia Church, Nelly, Karen M, Cookies and Cream, Black Queen. You are awesome. Thank you all so much. If you read the book, we can chat about some more of it tomorrow, what we got. And that would be awesome. Thank you to our awesome 2 Cents crew who supports the channel on a monthly basis. I appreciate y'all, and all of you who support in the chat as well. Thank you all so much for your incredible support. I love you all, and I shall chat with you mañana. Bye.